Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this press conference of the Institute of National Remembrance. The subject of this conference is the second International Film Festival on Totalitarianisms, Echoes of Katyn. Due to the epidemic situation this year, this festival will be organized online. The agenda for today's conference is we'll start with a speech by Jarosław Szarek, PhD, the president of the Institute of National Remembrance. He will speak about today's Day of Remembrance of Victims of Katyn, and then Mr. Chlebowicz from National Education Office will talk about the film festival and other films produced by IPN. One of the films produced by IPN is the God's Chosen One. The film will also be discussed by Konrad Starczewski from the National Education Office. I give the floor to the president of Institute of National Remembrance, Jarosław Szarek. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. 80 years ago, about 21,000 Polish officers, policemen, members of the intelligentsia were murdered by NKVD, this Soviet crime against Polish elite, aimed at, in fact, destroying Poland. It was about removing the independence elite. So many victims of Katyn were fighting for independence in the period 1914-1921. 2 decades were they building the independent Poland, and in 1940 they fell in the death pits of Katyn and other places which remain unknown. The Institute of National Remembrance, it has always been important for our institute that each victim has its face, has its history, so that it is not only a nameless mass of victims. It's been 81 years, and we still keep discovering new facts and new persons. One of the persons is Józef Marcinkiewicz, one of the victims of the Katyn Massacre, murdered in Kharkiv, a 30-year-old mathematician, one of the most eminent mathematical minds of the period. Until today, in mathematics, there are equations named after him. He was 30 years old, and this extremely talented mathematician in the summer of 1939 returned to Poland to get drafted into the army because he knew that the war was impeding. He resigned from a scholarship. He started in the Sorbonne, then he went to the UK. He resigned from the internship, from the scholarship, because he knew that it is not science that is most important, it is defending the fatherland. He was taken prisoner of war and he was murdered by Soviets. This person is nearly unknown outside of the mathematical milieu. This person shows the choices the people of that era had to make. They could live for the price of treason. They didn't betray and they were killed. Today, our duty is to remember, because the Katyn Massacre is a crime committed against these people, but it's also half a century of lies. Lies that were told by not only the perpetrators, but also the free world was involved in these lies, that for years knew the perpetrators, but it was silent in the name of its interests. However, thanks to many people, the truth survived, even though the price was immense. They were repressed, they were imprisoned in communist Poland for the truth of Katyn. Some of them were murdered, but the truth prevailed. The truth prevailed thanks to people like Adam Macedoński in Krakow, one of the founders of the Katyn Institute at the end of 1970s. These people were telling the truth when you had to pay high price for doing so, and this is a subject of one of the films. The second film festival, Echoes of Katyn. We want the echoes of Katyn to resound. That's why we organize this festival. We don't want to tell the story ourselves. This is why we've invited many filmmakers from abroad. We will show over 20 films from Russia, Latvia, Turkey, Czech Republic, Hungary, and Serbia. Even though the festival didn't take place due to the pandemic, it's only the second edition, it attracts more and more interest. And the truth of Katyn, which even today is manipulated, reaches great numbers of people. I would like to invite you between the 15th and 18th of April, not only to film screenings, but also discussions, workshops that will be organized by the Institute of National Remembrance. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Mr. Adam Chlebowicz, Director of the National Education Office.
Good morning. Often you journalists are asking us, organizers of the film festival on totalitarianisms, why do we organize this festival? There's a couple of answers for this question. It's been the second time that we are organizing this festival. We are sending out invitations to creators from all over the world. 100 creators submitted their entries, documentaries, and other types of films. This shows that ideological totalitarianisms are alive, and people of art want to make movies about it. They want to tell this story. This year we offer to you, on top of film screenings, also workshops and discussions. Film workshops, it's a new proposal. There will be two formulas that will be used. One, how to make historical film based on historical materials. This workshop is available to anybody who is willing to stand behind the camera and tell a story. And the second workshop will be aimed at professionals, film professionals, and we would like to have our colleagues from the archives show people what is in our archives, what films, what videos, what pictures we have. We are happy that there's been a lot of entries, especially for the second workshop. We have experienced filmmakers and filmmaking students who want to participate in this workshop, and they want to learn how to use the archives of our institute. And these archives are really huge.
In terms of discussions, there will be 3 of them. The first of them will be devoted to historical films as such, how it's made around the world and in Poland. The productions we are going to show you from countries like Czech Republic, Hungary, Latvia, Serbia, Turkey, these countries experienced many different forms of totalitarianism, and looking at the experiences of these filmmakers, not only directors but also camera operators, is extremely interesting. The second discussion will be about the use of multimedia in historical education. Also, the time of the pandemic shows that there are various opportunities, and under these difficult conditions it is possible to have interesting education. And the third discussion will be devoted to the young generation of Poles. Are they no longer interested in history? I think that each of these discussion panels will be very fruitful. In terms of films themselves, we will have actor movies, full and short-length movies. So hence we will have 3 types of awards, also the People's Choice, and we will also have an award for life's achievement. And we are also proud that the Institute of National Remembrance, the National Education Office, has been producing its own movies. This year we've produced 4 movies. First one, Cross and Swastika. It tells a story about trauma of Polish clergy and their experiences in the concentration camp of Dachau. One of my members of my family was killed in Dachau, and in spite of that, when I watched the film, when I saw the film, it was really made a huge impression on me. A second film tells the story of secret Katyn Institute. This is the story that shows that in a time when you couldn't tell the truth about Katyn, there were people who founded something incredible, a secret institute that has been collecting information and data about Katyn and was trying to tell the truth about this horrid crime. The film called Fort talks about Pomiechówek, and we have many such places in Poland and around the world. It's been over 70 years from the end of World War II. It might seem that we know everything about World War II, but we still keep discovering places and witnesses who tell us about these places. And finally, God's Chosen One, the president of IPN talked about this unknown victim of Katyn. This is a full-length film. We want to screen this film around the world in other film festivals, and I'd like to invite you all to participate in Film Festival on Totalitarianism, second edition of the festival, Echoes of Katyn. All films will be available online. You need to register on a special platform. It's called totalitarianism.pl. You need to click on participate, and you can also use this platform to vote for films, and this will be also a tool for choosing the People's Choice Award.
Thank you. Now I would like to invite to the floor the film director, Mr. Konrad Starczewski. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Katyn Massacre was a great blow to the Polish elite of the Second Polish Republic, including the academic community. Undoubtedly, Józef Marcinkiewicz was part of the academic community. You may read the quote from the presentation from Professor Leon Jaśmienowicz, who was the professor of mathematics at Vienna University, where Józef Marcinkiewicz was a student. Professor Jaśmienowicz said that Józef Marcinkiewicz is possibly the greatest personal loss incurred by Poland during the Second World War. This is a very powerful statement, especially that until today, Józef Marcinkiewicz has not been well recognized. He's known only to scholars and people of science. Otherwise, he's been completely forgotten, and we would like to change that situation. Speaking of Józef Marcinkiewicz, we need to make it very clear that he would never become who he became if not for his family and his family home. He had 4 siblings, and his parents set a goal for themselves to raise all 5 children in the spirit of patriotism. And the biography of Józef Marcinkiewicz and his siblings proves that they were able to attain that noble goal. With the great care of his mother and her efforts, Józef Marcinkiewicz continued along the academic career. He completed the secondary school in Białystok, and later on he joined Stefan Batory University at Vilnius. And now let me share with you some biographical data which demonstrate what kind of personality we are facing here. Józef Marcinkiewicz started to study in 1930. After 3 years, in 1933, he graduates with a master's degree. So 5 years of study completed within 3 years. In 1935, he completed his PhD. In 1937, he became an associated professor. So this is a very glamorous career. In 1939, at the age of 29 years, when he was abroad, he was informed that the Poznań University offered him the chair of mathematics. The Poznań University was an important center of the Polish mathematical school, and offering such a high-level position to a very young person is a testimony of his genius. Unfortunately, he was not able to accept this proposal because, as we know, in 1939, the Second World War started, and we've heard about his journey back home. At the end of August 1939, he continued his internship at the UK at the Cambridge University. And he was thinking that he should probably come to Poland since the war was looming on the horizon. And despite his friends and professors of the UK University telling him against that, and we do have testimonies of such claims, it is in the archives, people wanted him to stay in the UK. And this is also documented in our film. Despite that, he decided to leave and come back home. His patriotism, his love for his home country prevailed, and to him the most important thing was that he would come here and defend his home country when the moment calls. All these facts and all these events were unfolding very fast. He was able to stop by his hometown. He actually prepared a folder of his math notes and asked his mother to be the guardian of that. They buried that yet there in the farm. And he joined his military unit. He was defending Lviv. Lviv surrendered to the Soviet army, and he became the prisoner of war. In August 1939, he was able to make the decision to stay abroad, and no one would complain about it. And then, when he was the prisoner of war, when he was transported to Starobilsk, he was offered an opportunity to flee the transport, but he refused. He decided that he should be part of the group and he should stay with other officers. As we know, there were some fugitives who successfully fled the transport and were able to save themselves. He reached Starobilsk in April 1940. He was murdered, and his remnants are in the death pits in Piaty-Katki. The tragedy of Józef Marcinkiewicz and his entire family is further demonstrated by the notes, by the folder of notes that he deposited with his mother. Unfortunately, they were not saved. After many years, Józef Marcinkiewicz's brother, by accident, found his brother's notes, but unfortunately they already decayed and they could not be deciphered. The memory of Józef Marcinkiewicz faded away. It was lost the same way that his notes were lost. And this film would never happen if not for Professor Antoni Zygmunt. He was his tutor at the Vilnius University and outstanding mathematician himself. He decided to immigrate to the United States and he lived and worked there. And Professor Antoni Zygmunt made it very clear on many occasions that Józef Marcinkiewicz was his most outstanding student. And we need to remember that Professor Zygmunt actually trained a lot of outstanding mathematicians and who were laureates of the Fields Medal, which is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize in the mathematics. So that really shows what loss we sustained when Józef Marcinkiewicz was murdered by Soviets in Kharkiv. Professor Zygmunt was a tutor and a mentor of Józef Marcinkiewicz and his true friend. He could not come to terms with the fact that Józef Marcinkiewicz's memory was finding a way. Under the year of the Polish People Republic during the Communism, he was completely forgotten. His name was never mentioned in the textbook or in any encyclopedia. The stigma of Katyn made him completely forgotten. And since Professor Zygmunt decided to immigrate to the United States, where he actually published a number of groundbreaking mathematical publications, one of them was on trigonometric series, he actually mentioned the name of Marcinkiewicz whenever he published a equation or any other publication that to which the Marcinkiewicz was able to contribute earlier in his life. And this is how the memory of Józef Marcinkiewicz was saved. With our efforts as the Institute of National Remembrance, we are trying to keep his memory alive, and this panel and the film is another step towards this goal. We do believe that Józef Marcinkiewicz can be a role model for many young people. I want to invite all of you to watch God's Chosen One. This film will be available between 15 and 18 April on our film festival platform, and right now we would like to share with you a trailer. It's been always one thought: Józef and mathematics. It is really hard to say why Józef Marcinkiewicz has completely disappeared from the memory of Polish mathematicians. I was fascinated by the fact that a man who was just 30 years ago was able to substantiate so many equations and statements. The documents were actually lost as his family was liquidated. When he was a freshman, he already stood out because of his exceptional talent and capabilities. He was able to interrupt professor lecturing to the class, claiming that the professor was wrong. He was a sensational person, and there was a rivalry amongst professors. All of them wanted to win him as a student. He was a rough diamond that had to be polished. And he said that maths ruined his health because he was in a flow when he was doing math. This is the film about the passion, patriotism, and the cruel crime. In their family, the first thing has been always the home country and the home place. As a patriot and the son of my home country, I will never walk away from my service, and that's during the tough time of war. Hence, he made the one decision: I will come back and I will fight. Thank you, and we would like to invite you to watch the festival films. As it was explained, all the information can be found on the website totalitarianisms.pl